You're listening to XVGM Radio. Welcome to XVGM Radio, where the bits keep coming. I'm Justin.
And I'm Mike.
And this is episode 66, an Amiga Spotlight with our good friend NikoTengoku.
Niko's back, and better than ever.
Yes.
That's right.
Longer hair, new attitude. He's like a cool blue blur.
Like Mega Man?
Yeah, no, that'd be like Sonic. Like he's like,
oh, you're right.
He's like a cool gray blur, like an Amiga blur, blazing through the night. Niko is a good buddy of ours, and we've had him on the show every year, basically to start off each year. We're entering into our third year as a podcast, and of course, we had to bring him back for the Amiga Spotlight. Last year, we talked about it, really brief. And we were like, yeah, come on, you gotta come back, okay? And he was like, yeah, sure, I'll do that.
If you are not familiar with Niko, what podcast have you been listening to? Because he has been on our podcast twice already. Episode 17, the Game Boy Spotlight, and episode 45, we did a Rhythm Heaven Spotlight. So if you haven't listened to those, go back and listen, because those were a lot of fun. But Niko, do you want to introduce yourself to our new listeners?
Yeah, of course. As they said, I am NikoTengoku, previously known as the Wii Guy. Probably know me from 8-Bit Stereo on YouTube, my claim to notoriety, I guess. And I also stream on Twitch under the NikoTengoku name. So if you see me there, cool. But that's it. That's pretty much, that's main me.
Yeah, man. That's it, and that's all. So, yeah, if you want more Niko, go check out those episodes. And why wouldn't you want more Niko? I mean, he's our best guest.
Oh,
No offense to, all the... I mean, we did have Grant Kirkhope and David Wise on, but come on, it's Niko.
Well, I was going to say, like, we've had Grant Kirkhope on twice, and now we've had you on 3 times, so you had the most recurrences on the show, so I think that puts you, at the top.
Do you want to thank anybody in general?
I want to thank the Academy of XVGM for allowing me to have me on. Oh God!
Buckets of tears.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you as always.
Niko brought some serious jams, and you probably are still trying to pick up your face off the floor from that last track that we just opened up with.
Oh my God!
From a game called Fury of the Furries, which came out in 1993 on the Amiga, and the track is called Lagoon, and it's by Frederick Mott or Mott.
Yeah, Mott.
I was saying after we listened to this, I was like, Niko, I think you may have already picked the track of the episode for me. Because, oh my God, that bass, man.
That's exactly where my mind went as well. Like, the bass was super intense, and it starts out just like really powerful, and then as it goes on, it gets really buzzy. And as I've said to death on this show and others, I loves me a buzzy bass. So there was a lot going on here, but the bass really stood out, like you said. It was also really ethereal, which was kind of neat. Like, it was just like lay back, close your eyes, and just like kind of like melt into the song.
Like a stick of butter.
Yes.
Just melt. That bass groove was just so funky and so fresh. It was nice to come into an episode with such a funk-oriented kind of track, but also still such a chill vibe. So I gotta know, how did you find this one in your journeys?
It was just in my initial journey of wanting to listen to more Amiga music. So of course I am not versed in terms of the games. Amiga was very much a European thing.
Yeah.
If you're lucky to have one in the States, that's pretty cool. But obviously, 1993 born noob as myself, mostly grew up with console stuff. But when just realizing, hey, Commodore 64 is pretty cool. Commodore made another console, the Amiga. I wonder how their sound is. So I think I just put on a random playlist that just had select tracks from games. And yeah, I think that was it. And I just found this one. And I was like, whoa. I like the vibe. And of course, checked out the whole soundtrack, which is as equally amazing. Nice. So I would highly suggest checking out the entire Fury of the Furry soundtrack. And yes, the name is quite, you're like, what? But it's actually pretty neato. It's actually a pretty neat game as well. Starts out so calm with those synths, and it's all just like, oh, is this what it's going to be? And then you get into that bass and the funk and the change-ups near the end. It's just like, wow. Frederick, you beautiful man.
Seriously.
I want to kiss you. I want on the mouth.
So this track sounded like something another composer that we listened to before. And I mean, I know it's not Frederick because I've never heard of Frederick before. Dean Evans. Yeah. That's who this reminded me of. Dean Evans.
I get that vibe. I mean, he did also work on Amiga stuff too. Dean Evans. This game is pretty silly. It's about this group of aliens called Tinies, and I guess there's this bad guy called the Wicked One who is trying to eat all the Tinies, I guess. And so you play as a single Tiny who's trying to defeat the Wicked One, and he has kidnapped the king of the Tinies and turned all of the rest of the Tinies into monsters, like mindless, bad guys basically. So you're trying to destroy the Wicked One. So that is the plot of the game, but it's like a puzzle platformer kind of game.
So it's not about a bunch of teen to 20-something people who put on costumes of animals and then get really angry and hit stuff.
No, it's not.
Totally didn't read the room properly on that one.
Mom, get out of my room. I'm trying to put my wolf costume on. I'm gonna hit something. No, it's not. It's not anything like that. The game was later turned into a Pac-Man game called Pac in Time. So it was like converted from this Fury of the Furries game it was, I guess, licensed by Namco, and then they just changed a bunch of stuff, including the music, which is like, yo, come on.
So you take the game, completely resprite it, probably left the levels, and then change the music. I mean,
yeah,
okay, like it's happened plenty of times in video games, but like that's unfortunate.
Yeah, like how you gonna gut the tunes, man? Don't gut the tunes.
Maybe because Frederick really upholds his music, and he's like, "You're not taking my music to the Super Nintendo. These are for the Amiga."
Yeah,
Amiga only.
That could be. So we're going to be talking a lot about the Amiga throughout the episode. We're going to highlight some information about the system, talk a little bit about the sound chip, and, pick through a bunch of tracks. We're going to go round robin, and starting off with Niko's first pick, and then we'll go through Justin's pick, and then my pick, and then we'll kind of go back around. If you've heard previous Niko episodes, it's pretty much the same format. So I think you'll enjoy this one if you enjoyed those other two episodes. And if you haven't heard them and you're listening and you're a new listener, go back and listen to those other two. Those are super great episodes.
So much good music in those other in those other two.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Niko always brings the fire.
He does.
Do my best.
Fire. Frederick Mott, before we get into the next track, started off with a game called No Exit in 1990 where they did sound. Later on, they did a game called Goblins with like a million eyes in 1991.
Like goblins?
Yeah, like, yo, what's up? Lo, let me tell you about some goblins.
Okay.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Nice.
They did Al Unser Jr. Arcade Racing in 1995, Nightmare Creatures in 97, Nightmare Creatures 2 in 2000. Just kept making games up until 2018 where they did Double Kick Heroes, which was a indie game, it looks like. Yeah.
Neat.
Mixes rhythm games with a shoot 'em up. That sounds like right up Niko's alley.
I was just going to say, that sounds pretty nifty.
It sounds pretty Niko.
That too. It's not Nifty Tengoku, no. It's NikoTengoku.
There you go. So let's get into Niko's first pick. What do you got for us?
All right, my first pick I got for you is an unused theme from Gauntlet 3, The Final Quest by the one and only Tim Fallon.
Oh. All right, let's give it a listen.
That was the unused theme from Gauntlet 3, The Final Quest, on the Amiga, of course, by Tim Fallon.
Now, normally, we don't usually allow unused music on the show unless we're doing like an unreleased track episode. So, you know, we're going to let it slide because it's Niko and it's an amazing track.
Yeah, we're going to bend
we
the
don't
rules
do that
a little.
for anybody.
I'm totally okay with that because this track was really awesome. I have a feeling that that's going to be a common theme this evening. Really awesome tracks. I'm not familiar very much with the Amiga. I'm probably more familiar with just the Commodore 64, but man, we're 2 for 2 so far tonight. And I mean, the next track coming up is mine, so I mean, we'll be 3 for 3 in a minute. But the opening was really cool. Like it was a really nice like rock opening. As soon as I heard it, I was just like, okay, we're going for like a really cool rock theme. I like the sound of the guitar. And then like the synths came in, and I'm not sure if they were meant to sound like rock organs, but that's just where my mind went. Like we had a rock opening and it just continues rocking, and now we've got these organs. Kind of reminds me of like Boston or a lot of like classic rock. And then, you know, once again, as with Fury of the Furries, you've got this just awesome bass groove that carries through the entire track. It was all amazing. I think the bass was just my favorite part because it was kind of, I don't use this word often, but it was juicy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, juicy. I can agree with all of that. I was telling Niko during the break, well, I guess Justin too, because he's here too.
I see how it is.
Oh, come on. Don't be like that. No, I was telling the guys that this really reminded me of Spider-Man X-Men right on the second like lead line when the second guitar melody comes in. Like that whole part really kind of vibe with Spider-Man X-Men. It sounded like Cyclops' stage or like Gambit's level or something like that on the Super NES. So, you know, I'm going to be probably comparing throughout this episode a lot of these tracks with Super NES tracks, and that makes sense since from what I understand, the two were, you know, they kind of worked hand in hand in a lot of ways, where like a lot of Amiga games ended up on the Super NES years later or got ports, you know, maybe a year or two later or whatnot, and you know, they kept most of the music.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's Tim Fallon, first of all, for this track. I mean, you gotta expect greatness. And I mean, how I came across this, obviously being a fan of Tim Fallon since like 2010, when you become a huge fan, especially of a video game music composer's work, you're like, I want to check out everything they've done. And of course, we wander into the Amiga era, or what Tim Fallon did on the Amiga. And it kind of makes sense that this is unused, because it doesn't fit the vibe of the actually only 4 other tracks on the soundtrack, because they all had like that mythical kind of like, ooh, a mysterious fantasy land vibe, you know? I mean, the title screen theme had this similar rock vibe, but this is like full on just like out there, which is sad a little bit. This could have been used as like the high score theme maybe, like at the very end of the game, but
yeah, or hey, like a password sort of thing or something like that. Yeah,
some kind of just hidden track or something. But it's rocking, you know? All the sound channels, you can hear them all. You can hear that drum, bass, guitar, and the organ. It all comes together so juicy, as you mentioned. It's very Fallen. It's very like what you would then hear on some of the, you know, Super Nintendo works, which, you know, 2 different sound chips for Amiga and Super Nintendo, but they kind of overlap a little bit depending on how you use the samples or just how you work your compositions. It's really amazing to see Fallen in 91, which is still relatively early Amiga. Like once you get past 91, 92, that's when a lot of sounds for certain games get very, you know, interesting, intricate, like Fury of the Furries. It's masterful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hearing juicy throughout the this entire discussion, and I gotta say, if this was a glass of juice, what kind of juice would it be?
Sunny D.
Sunny D, really?
Okay, Sunny D with Sprite mixed in.
Hear
me out.
Mike, some people like Sunny D.
It's a non-alcoholic mimosa, but it's, you know, you got the juice, but you got a little bit of the fizz. You got a bit of like that, ooh, that fallenness. It's great.
When I think Sprite, I think Sprite Remix, and I think like what the rappers drink. It's called Drank. And it is, yeah, they're leaning on Drank. And what it is codeine, they mix it with Sprite Remix, or Sprite, I guess now, and then a Jolly Rancher on the top. You put the Jolly Rancher in for additional flavor, and then you sip it. You don't drink it. You sip it, and then it kind of makes you kind of sleepy a little bit. So like
exactly what you want before you go rapping.
A drink that makes you sleepy for this rockin'.
No, but track. Like it makes you vibe. It makes you chill. Like you lean on Drank and you get, you know. Listen, I've got plenty of stories involving Amiga and intoxication. We'll go there later.
Sure.
But yeah, that's my pick. What about you, Justin?
as far as like what kind of beverage juice it is. So
Yeah.
that's a good question. I was going to go with something relatively simple, like full pulp orange juice, or like a nice fresh glass of apple juice from like fresh squeezed apples. But you both went in very different directions.
Wait, fresh squeezed apples? You don't squeeze apples.
I just realized, yeah, you don't do that with apples, really. You do with oranges, but I don't know about apples. I've never done that.
I just
hoping I could slide that one by you.
Like, he's got a giant like container, and he's just like grabbing apples and squeezing them, and like just chunks of apple are just falling in. He's just drinking glasses of like chunky apple.
Freshly squeezed apples, I love.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
You know what? That would be Gauntlet 3 unused theme by Tim Fallon. We also want to mention that Jeff Fallon is labeled for this track as well in other places, most notably certain magazines from back in the day. But Niko, you mentioned that he is not actually... Jeff Fallon, his brother, is not in the credits for this game.
Yeah, those opening credits, which the other versions of Gauntlet 3 he is. And typically, if, anyone's going to be credited in a software creations developed game, you're going to get credited. Like, you're not going to miss out just because, whatever. So it's interesting to see that only Tim Fallon's name is on Gauntlet 3 for the Amiga version.
Interesting. This version of Gauntlet 3 is, I don't know, it's Gauntlet. But
what's isometric.
It is isometric, which is, I think, more of a change, because normally it's like top down. This is more isometric style, kind of like what they ended up doing with like Gauntlet Legends a little bit. Yeah. But you could play as 4 different characters: the warrior, wizard, elf, and Valkyrie. But there's also 4 additional characters that you can get, and some new guys: Lizard, Neptune, Stone Man, and Iceman.
What's Neptune?
Yes, Stone Man from Mega Man.
Neptune.
Yeah, you just go through the game as a planet?
I guess. That would be awesome. Just like destroying everything.
Yeah. Or even if not that, like was Neptune the Roman? Yeah, a Roman god? Like either way, that's really OP. Like either I'm killing everything because gravity, or I'm killing everything because I'm a god. I assume neither of those are actually the truth, but that's really funny.
Probably not, yeah. Not much to say about Tim Fallon. I mean, he's the greatest. I mean, well, not the greatest, because that's Ika Mizutani. No offense, boys, but...
Whoa.
I think you mispronounced Nobuo Uematsu.
He's up there.
It's all right.
He's up there.
He's up there. But yeah, no, Tim Fallon, we've talked about multiple times on the podcast. I don't know, I'll pick 3 random games. Plock in 93, one of the greatest. Silver Surfer on NES, and Solstice on NES.
Yeah, I will say, though, I feel like there needs to be a renaissance again for Tim Fallon's Amiga stuff. Because everyone knows the NES, the Super Nintendo, maybe some of his other past them. But actually or Commodore 64, I should say. People know that. But the Amiga stuff, and not a lot of people actually talk too much about it, which is a shame, because that is among some of his best as well, like for each soundtrack he has done.
Oh, for sure.
So the next track in today's Amiga Spotlight is mine. So I'm going to play a track from a game called Action Cat. This came out obviously on the Amiga in 1995. This is going to be the main theme, and it was composed by Annette Stender. Welcome back. That was 1995's Action Cat, which was an Amiga exclusive. That was the main theme, as composed by Annette Stender.
That was interesting. That was unique. That was probably the most unique track we've heard so far. Like, we've heard some bangers for sure, but I got kind of a new wave vibe from this.
Yeah, a little bit. Kind of dark music.
Yeah. Definitely highlighting your interest in like goth and new wave and industrial, like that type of stuff. Cool. What'd you think about it, Niko?
Yeah, very much there's like a sort of dark undertone, but it's like dark new wave. That's how I would describe it. Very, very much has that Amiga feel to it as well. Definitely nothing I've heard before, and I dug it though. I really did. You know, there's a lot of like, as any console, a lot of like sort of filler or med tracks, but I mean, obviously for the podcast, you know. Always good tunes, and I did like this one. Yeah,
this one was, and Mike, as you said, definitely different from what we heard earlier, because we went from something funky to something rocky to something kind of just like, I don't know that I'd call it dirgy, slow plodding. Oh. It definitely is a lot slower. Some of the stuff that I thought was kind of interesting, aside from like the game itself, because the game is weird, but there was a kind of a mix of like sampled instruments or like sampled sounds and non-sampled, it felt like to me, and I don't think it stands up to that Lagoon track. I'll tell you that for sure. But I definitely enjoyed this one when I found it. It was also the only track I could find from the game Action Cat, and I'm curious if there is anything else out there that we can eventually find. Like if all the stuff is kind of like dark like this, or if there's kind of a mixture of other stuff in this game. Either way, I heard it and I thought it was really neat. The game itself is kind of wacky. So you are playing said Action Cat in this game. It's unclear from what I've seen and read whether Action Cat is from space. There's a big opening scene with like a spaceship and planets and stuff. I couldn't actually find any gameplay, but I did see a number of screenshots. What you're doing as this humanoid cat, your goal is to destroy a toothpaste factory. And this factory is exactly. What? That's what I'm saying. Like, this is such a weird game. So
why?
Search me. I have no clue. Maybe they're making toothpaste that's secretly killing people. I have no idea.
Cat? It's a cat?
Cat. It's a humanoid, like a bipedal humanoid cat. He seems angry. Maybe this is the real fury of the furries.
The design on his in-game sprite is terrifying. What the hell?
Right?
Weird.
Wow.
What is this game?
Yeah, it's really weird. It's an action platformer. The levels are kind of like mazes that you have to find your way through. You'll find like key cards and solve puzzles and flip switches and whatnot.
Doom.
Doom, if it were a platformer, it's not first person. So like a side scrolling,
right?
Yeah, like a side scrolling Doom or Wolfenstein, if you will.
I get a Krusty's Funhouse vibe from this.
Oh, like, that's fair. That's fair. I haven't seen that game in so long. Well, Robin Purnell and Rhythm and Pixels played a Krusty's Funhouse track on one of their recent episodes, and like that got me thinking about the game again. And it didn't even occur to me when I was looking at this, but you're right. It does it does evoke similar feelings. But yeah, I mean, so there, like you have a weapon that you can shoot. You can shoot the bad guys. There's like defensive mechanisms and enemies and whatnot. You have a life bar, and there's power ups, like you can get energy refills, better weapons, bombs, stuff like that. So it's a really wacky looking game.
Do the guns shoot toothbrushes?
That's a good question.
Why a toothpaste factory? That's so random.
Because Amiga, Mike. It's on the Amiga.
That's true. Accurate.
Oh, that's right. Was the Amiga popular in the UK?
It was.
I just lost us. Yeah, all of our UK followers, by the way.
We're gonna talk about it, actually.
It's true. Before we get into that, I'll talk real quick about Annette Stender, because Annette Stender has one credit, and it is this game. So there's your there's your composer information.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you did good, Annette. If this is your only work, you did good.
Yeah.
I do like this track.
I like
wherever you are. If you're listening, if you happen to ever come across this, we liked your work.
Annette is a huge fan of ours.
She writes in daily.
Big time. Absolutely. Yeah. Mostly to Janine, though. Our wonderful Metroid producer. Let's talk a little bit about the Amiga. So the Commodore Amiga computer system was released in mid-1985. It cost, back then, $1,295 for just the Amiga 1000 unit, with the monitor being an additional $300. Now, that would have cost, in today's money, $3,078 and $713.15 for the monitor, and that's as of 2019.
So last year's money.
Yeah. Not today's money, last year's money.
Holy moly. That's insane. I mean, a lot of the stuff gets blown up for inflation at this point, but even just in back then money, anything over in 1985, anything that was over $1,000, I mean, who was buying that stuff? I mean, I guess rich people, but holy moly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. Yeah. So the Amiga, as you mentioned, it's from a Commodore, and it actually directly follows the Commodore 128 line of 8-bit computers, which was actually obviously the sequel to the Commodore 64. Commodore, as a company, was focusing on a machine that would incorporate 16 and 32-bit, and thought it was initially seen as a business-oriented device, but then it kind of shifted into the home computer market and gaming system, as was technically inevitable.
Niko.
Oh yeah, yep. Yep, and keyboard and mouse support were enabled, as were gaming controllers, which I believe use the same 9-pin controller port layout as the Sega Genesis. But I would say the Amiga's biggest claim to fame, like icon-wise, is that their games were on floppy disks. Those floppies were very memorable as an Amiga icon.
For sure.
Were these the like 5 1/4, like the floppy disks, or were they like the standard hard plastic floppy disks?
Like the hard ones, like I can imagine it's like a blue, a blue hard floppy. Don't take that out of context.
like the save icon in most modern software.
That's a comment that somebody would make if they were born like after the year 2000.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about like Gen Z and how they didn't grow up with floppy disks. So like, oh, you mean the save icon? Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Right. And every time I hear that, a little part of me dies inside.
That's just called getting old, Mike.
Just like one little piece of my bone turns to dust inside my body.
I'm guessing you haven't heard it a lot then.
I don't know.
Definitely not 206 times.
No. So that's good stuff. But it looks like we are getting a call on our caller request hotline. We didn't plan on taking any calls, but Janine is here producing the episode and screaming at us to take the call. So let's go ahead and take that call.
XVGM Radio. Who is this and what can we play for you?
Dear Turrican, I'm going to tell you, I want you to play a song from my game.
I think you've had a few. Take that how you will. Which game?
What you mean I had a few? You twisting eyeballs at me, boy. I tell you, my name is Turkin, and I will hunt you down and tie your eyeballs up, because that's what I do. And then I shoot them, and then I roll into a ball and fly away. Listen, I want you to play me a song. It's called The Desert Rocks, Stage 1-1.
Oh, is that from Turrican 2 on the Amiga?
Bye.
Okay, well, I'm going to assume it was. What a coincidence that we have an Amiga-themed episode.
Niko is muted and cracking up. I am watching him, and it is hilarious.
Oh,
you missed
that's
out.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you, you wonderful Saint Turrican, for popping on and putting in a request and threatening Justin's eyeballs.
I need those.
We're gonna listen to Chris Hulsbeck's classic soundtrack for Turrican 2, which came out on the Amiga in 1991, and as he requested, this is The Desert Rocks, also known as Stage 1-1. Welcome back. That was Turrican 2 on the Amiga. That came out in the year 1991, and the track was called The Desert Rocks, also known as Stage 1-1, by Chris Holzbeck. Now, just to touch on this super quick, Marcus Seibold is also credited for the track and the compositions for this game, but they only did the Commodore 64 version, so just as a heads up.
Yeah, makes sense. So this was really cool, but it gave me some flashbacks to an episode that we did a while ago, particularly a song from that episode. This gave me I want to say cool spot flashbacks.
Okay.
You got the stereo, but it's pulling. You only have certain things in one ear and certain things in the other. So it was just really kind of discombobulating. If people didn't hear this in actual stereo, or if like you were only listening to one headphone, you missed half the song. It's not bad. It's just every time we've listened to something like that, it's always just really weird because you're only hearing certain things in certain ears, and my brain is just like, okay, but what? There's a handful of times where like some drums or some synths came in across both channels, and it was really surprising, and it kind of brightened up the song. Like every time it happened, it felt like not the song picked up, but it brightened up a little bit, and that was just really nice. Like I don't think the Cool Spot track did that. I think it was like pure separation between the left and the right ears, and this one had a little bit of bridging, which was nice.
He's referring to our episode 63, same song, different system that we recently did. There was a track from Cool Spot that we played, and it had similar stereo craziness where you'll have some stuff going on in the left ear, some stuff going on in the right ear, and it kind of pans back and forth sometimes. It's pretty nutty, and we'll talk a little bit about that regarding the sound chip in just a bit. What do you think about this track, Niko? I mean, I'm sure you've heard it a million times.
Yeah, it's great. It's Chris Holzbeck goodness. One of the maybe like a pioneer, but definitely one of the top composers you would associate with the Amiga. You know, you got your David Whittaker, Chris Holzbeck, even Matt Furness I would associate fairly well with the Amiga. You know, Dean Evans, Jonathan Dunn, all those many European greats. But for
sure,
I mean, Turrican 2 is one of the definitely like top 10 like. You know, you think of Amiga, you're going to think of one of the Turrican games, but definitely Turrican 2, The Final Fight. That title theme alone is cemented as one of the greatest Amiga title themes of all time. And that was definitely one of the first I've heard on the Amiga was the title theme.
I don't know. The third game is pretty impressive too. Turrican 3, The Quest for Lettuce. that one's really good too.
Oh, I got to look that one up now because that sounds
catching me off guard with that one. I mean, I like them all.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. You know what's weird is this was also ported to the Game Boy, and I believe the Genesis as well, but it was rebranded or changed to Universal Soldier, like based on the movie.
Oh.
Yep. Interesting. This game, you play as a character named Turrican, and Turrican is taking place in the year 3025. Without reading verbatim, the plot is just like a mess. You know, it's all this sci-fi gobbledygook of, you know, battle cruisers and battle stations and this and that. Listen, the bottom line is it's Contra and Metroid combined, basically. People say the game is actually more in line with a game called Psycho Nick's Oscar, which was a Data East game. So, you know, based on like the weapons and everything, it's side-scrolling game, run and gun. So if you like run and guns and you like Metroid, you'll dig this. The reason why it gets associated with Metroid is because your character can go into a ball. Morph ball. Yeah. So that was inspired by Metroid.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's more platform heavy than Contra. In my opinion, Contra's more of a traditional run and gun, whereas Turrican kind of likes to throw in a lot of platforming and a lot of like dodging to make sure that you don't jump into a pit or jump into fall really high or stuff like that, you know. So that's kind of the purpose.
Yeah, so it's more like, are you a Turrican or a Turricant?
Oh, yes.
Nice.
Perfect.
I'm a
5 stars.
Thank you.
Chris Holzbeck, I mean, we've talked about him before multiple times, but he's a fantastic composer. I don't know, 3 games. Mega Turrican, that was my first game that I played that he did music for. Then later on, Jim Power, The Lost Dimension in 3D, which has one of the best soundtracks on the Super NES.
Yep.
We may or may not talk about Jim Power later. Perry Roden, Operation East Side. He did sound effects.
East Side?
East Side?
Surprised he didn't go for the, what was it, the Gina sisters?
Oh, Gianna
Sisters.
Gianna sisters? That's like what it is.
Gianna Sisters, Twisted Dreams, was a phenomenal soundtrack in 2012. He worked on that with Machina Supremacy.
Oh.
Which was a band that used, like, they were like a heavy metal hard rock band that uses the SID chip from the Commodore 64 in a lot of their music. So amazing soundtrack that he worked on. And I don't know, Bubsy the Woolies Strike Back, he did the soundtrack for that. That's his latest game in 2017. So I'm sure that has great music. I'll have to go check it out. Going back to the company, Commodore, they made the decision to release a high-end model of the Amiga called the Amiga 2000. And then what they also did was they created a financially cheaper option called the Amiga 500, the latter of which ended up being the biggest selling Amiga unit. The final builds of Amiga computer systems were released in 1992, called the A1200 and the A4000. Now, there was a model that's technically not, slightly inaccurate, because there's another model called the A4000T with a tower-based version. Basically, it has a tower, much like, you know, all standard computers nowadays. And that was discontinued in 97. But what happened was Commodore International was sold in 1996 to a company called SCOM, who restarted production on the A4000T until 1997, where it was officially discontinued. Then during Commodore's initial run, prior to 97 or prior to 96, them getting bought out, there were only about 200 made. So if you got one of those, you were sitting on some money.
Wow.
Yep, and between all of those computers, the Amiga, of course, we come to its sound chip. And because the Amiga could do a playback of digital sound samples, that really opened the floodgates for tracker programs to be able to create music for the Amiga. It's really good stuff came from that.
Absolutely.
As we are hearing and will continue to hear throughout the episode, that sound chip was actually named Paula, or codenamed Paula. It's weird to just call a sound chip Paula. And it has the option for a total of 4 PCM sample channels, which are split between each speaker, which explains right here why there's a lot of funky stereo tricks enabled in the music in a lot of these tracks. So we definitely encourage listeners to hear this, as I said earlier, with both headphones on and stereo enabled to get the full audio experience, because it is wacky and it is really neat. Yeah,
it's definitely wild and crazy, kids. You want to listen with both headphones in. Stereo needs to be on. If you're listening to it on your phone, like just holding your phone, it's not going to sound great. You know, you want to definitely get some headphones on this, or jack up the volume in your car.
I mean, to be clear, it'll sound all right, but you just won't get the stereo effects.
Right. And that's what you need in your gullet. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's move on to Nico's second pick. What do you got for us?
All right, what I got for you is a little game called Super Stardust. Levels 1 to 6, or just World 1 basically, by Risto Viori.
All right.
Welcome back. That was levels 1 through 6, or World 1, from Super Stardust by Risto Viori.
Gotta break out the glow sticks on that one.
Yeah, oh man. Raving so hard. I really liked this one. This, to tell the folks at home, right before we listened to this, we were chatting during the break, and I mused about whether or not this was related, really stupidly, because obviously it's related, to Super Stardust HD, which came out on the PSP and the PS3 in 2007. And I love the music from that game. I like the game of that game, and obviously the music is slightly different, but this had the same feel. Like, as soon as this came on and as it was going, I was like, I mean, it's not the music from Super Stardust HD, but what they did in HD, it feels very influenced by this. Like I don't know, just the vibe that I got from this music was the same, and I love the soundtrack to that game. So, I mean, it's already a hit with me.
How'd you find this one, Niko?
This is actually a very recent one. As usual, I still dig through Amiga, the catalog of soundtracks just to find new stuff. And this is like last month, actually. This is like right before doing the whole thing for this episode, like being like, we're gonna do it, and I was like, oh, I gotta find songs.
Yeah.
And mistakenly, I actually chose a song from the Amiga CD32 version of this game that there is, which is amazing, but it's actually an entirely different soundtrack. It's not by Risto, that version, strangely enough. But funny enough, I kind of actually at the time obviously couldn't tell the difference between this and the CD32 version. That's how good this track. I mean, obviously when you listen to the CD32 version, you're like, yeah, this is Red Book audio, but this gives me like just like that early 90s electronic like orbital, like that an orbital vibe, like something that could be professionally produced. That's how much I grown to love this. And actually the entire soundtrack is just like, it's just as groovy, just as funky, and for the first time made me forget like, oh yeah, this is an Amiga song. And this is actually one to me that I'm like, oh yeah, this doesn't sound like it's from the Amiga. Like, you have those traditional like Amiga samples or just soundware, but here I'm just like, oh my god, sounds like Orbital or something. Like, I love just how like trancey it gets, and I'm just like, hey, glow stick. I mean, it's not ravish, but maybe a little bit, but it's really good. I love it, and the game itself looks very cool. I would have loved to probably have this game, or just would love to have it if I ever get an Amiga.
Yeah, I know, right? I like trance music, but I've always kind of been a sucker for the more like melodic, progressive trance with stuff where it's like you get breakdowns and stuff like that. But with something like this, it just kind of feels like high octane energy the entire time, and it's not bad. I like the track for sure, but it just kind of makes me space out. It doesn't make me focus on the melodies or the grooves. It just kind of makes me want to like go into a field and break open a glow stick and like drink it and just like
I
party,
highly recommend against doing that.
Yeah, don't ever do that. But call me if you're gonna do it, because we'll hook up. We'll do it.
Wow.
Oh my
Wow.
God. Wow. But yes, tell us more about this game, because I've looked at a couple things and I'm already blown away at what I saw of some screenshots.
So at first look, it just looks like a space invader, not space invaders, asteroids, man. All the space talk, I'm just thinking of space. No, it's like asteroids. Like, that's how it looks like when you first see it. It's just the flatness, there's asteroids flying, you gotta shoot them. There's like this weird background going on, very spacey, very European probably. And that looks like the chunk of it, but then you go into like this like Tempest sort of tunnel like view, and then you start shooting stuff, I guess Tempest style, against, stuff. I don't know, I'm not the best at describing, but you know what I mean when I describe those styles of games. It's very, very unique. And then it'll go to like back to like the flat asteroids look, but then you're like traveling in like a maze, and just it's a special mission. It's very like, the background's kind of like Earthbound-esque. It's got like just the waves and such. It's a very cool game. It looks very just good shoot 'em up fun. And of course, I think the soundtrack reflects it very much, with all the shooting action. You gotta have something that probably reflects that very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the soundtrack, of course, works both in and out of the game. You would probably maybe like some of the other tracks in this, Mike. I mean, they have a similar vibe, but some of them get a little more umphin'. This is definitely like the you know. But I did love this one because it was the first one I heard from the game, and I was like, ooh, I love when it kind of breaks down for a little bit, and it's just like, I'm just like, I love it. I'm a sucker for the simple stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
This sounded really advanced, though. I think you're dead on regarding comparing it to the CD32 version. Like, it just, or rather the CD32 soundtrack, just in general, because I got a very advanced vibe from this song. Like, it just seems like it was made for a system that it wasn't made for, and that's kind of the testament to how powerful and how impressive it was to hear music on the Amiga back then. So Risto Fiori really only did the music for the Stardust series, from what I'm seeing. Stardust, Super Stardust, Super Stardust HD, and Super Stardust HD Complete in 2008.
Yeah, and on those last two, he's specifically credited for the retro soundtrack, which would be the soundtrack from Super Stardust, I believe.
Makes sense. Makes sense. There's probably an option to like turn that on or enable that. So.
Yeah, I'll have to go actually take a look at that, because I don't think I ever noticed the retro soundtrack. Although now that I'm thinking of it, I've only ever played the Super Stardust HD as in 2-player mode, so it's kind of competitive. I think it's score competitive, but you're not like competing against each other, like trying to kill each other. But it's it's a really fun game. If anybody out there has a PS3 and has the ability to grab this, if you like the music, like I said, the music, like the modern soundtrack is very similar to this. Like, it's very, very techno-y, and the gameplay is just really interesting. Like, it's basically asteroids attached to a planet or a sphere. Like, I think they made a few changes, because Super Stardust HD is supposed to be like an enhanced version, or like an upgraded version, or whatever you want to call it, like an enhanced remake of Super Stardust. But everything that I've played, I haven't played the single player stuff at all, which I probably should. But it's like you're on a sphere and you're going around however you want, and you can pick up power-ups, and the asteroids are also floating around the sphere, and you have to shoot them and break them up and whatnot. So it was a really interesting way to do an asteroids type game.
Super Stardust Ultra also came out as well, and that was released in 2015 in North America and PAL areas, like PAL regions. So, and you can get that for the PS4. So if you're like having trouble with trying to track it down on either the PSP or the Vita, you can grab that version as well.
Nice. I didn't even know about that. I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool little series. It's a shame that, the developer Blood House, they only made Stardust and Super Stardust and both versions. And Risto, this is the only stuff he did, which is a shame, because I wish he did other stuff. It's just these one game or two credits, they drive me crazy, because it's like the talent that was behind this soundtrack, and it's like, what else could they have done?
For sure.
Like Risto and Annette, like, I'm wondering, like, what did they go on to do afterwards? Because, like, I mean, unless something unfortunate happened and they passed away, but like, she only did that Action Cat game. He only did the Super Stardust games. Like, what did they? The stuff is good. So, like, did they go on to have a career in music, or did they move on to something else? I'm kind of curious.
Well, I guess we're going from one space game to another space game, because Justin's pick is all about space. What do you got for us?
It is. This is going to be Space Crusade. Obviously, we're listening to the Amiga version, but this came out in a ton of stuff. The Amiga, the Amstrad CPC, the Atari ST, Commodore 64, DOS, and the ZX Spectrum, all in 1992. The track is called Main Menu, and it was composed by Imagitech Design Inc., specifically Barry Leach and Ian Howe. Hello, XVGM listeners. Welcome back to our Amiga Spotlight with super awesome guest host NikoTengoku. The track you just heard was the main menu theme from Space Crusade. It's an Amiga game that came out in 1992, and the music was done by Imagitech Design, specifically Barry Leach and Ian Howe.
I definitely hear Barry Leach in this track.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. I liked the track, but I found that I liked it more and more as it kept building and going through this kind of journey. The last part of the track specifically was my favorite, where you get that really noodly, almost like harpsichord playing, like just all up and down the keys, and it just rocked my face off. It was so good.
Nice. Niko, what are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. Oh, very good. I love it. I love Barry Leach. I love Ian Howe. The tag team, almost like a Maniacs of Noise kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, Jerome Tell, Charles Deenan. Those two guys, just love them both.
Yeah. I found that it was like, so for one, I liked it because it was kind of really rocking. You got that hard rock or that metal guitar that's in there, but just like with Mike, like what Mike was saying, where it gets really noodly, and what they do with the guitar is it feels very playful. So like I kind of feel like it has simultaneously like a menacing vibe and almost a playful vibe as well, which is just really, really weird. But yeah, the Space Crusade itself is technically, this is part of or in the realm of Warhammer 40k stuff. Like Space Crusade, if you look at the box art, it is very obviously a Space Marine. The game itself is like a sci-fi strategy game, which was converted from Games Workshop / Milton Bradley board game, which I'm not sure if it was Warhammer 40k or if it was like proto Warhammer 40k, but I mean, Games Workshop, they're the Warhammer folks, so it's very, very obvious where this came from. But you control a commander and 4 Space Marines, and they're sent on different missions aboard like different alien starships and stuff. So your commander starts off as a sergeant, but you can work your way up through the ranks, and the game actually allows for 3 players, each one commanding a different Marine. The alien quote-unquote team is always played by the computer, so the aliens are always the AI. So this is kind of similar to the Hero Quest game that we played, I want to say in episode 3, our board games episode. Yeah, so it's along the same veins because this video game is a literal conversion of the board game. And it's actually done by the same folks. Gremlin Graphics Software Limited, they did at least a version of Hero Quest. It might have been ported to other systems by other companies, but Gremlin did the original Hero Quest video game, and they did this one. So
yeah, they've done a ton of stuff, Gremlin. They've worked on plenty of games.
As have Ian Howe and Barry Leach. So Ian Howe has a handful of audio credits. It actually looks like they moved on to like managing and directing, being more of a business person after a while. But in 1991, they started doing composition with Team Suzuki, and then went on to do Wheel of Fortune in 92, The Humans in 92, Demon's Gate in 93, and their last game that they have an audio credit for here is Tempest 2000 in 1996. And then Barry Leach has a resume far too lengthy to dig too deep into, but we'll start with his uncredited composition for Weird Dreams in 1988. 1989, he did music in Gemini Wing, did music and sound effects in Lethal Weapon in 1992, jump up a little bit more, did the music for Eek the Cat in 1994, did music composition on Kong, the Eighth Wonder of the World in 2005, and then most recently Dungeonette in 2018 they did the music. So Barry Leach still doing stuff. I think he's actually in our Facebook group, so thank you, Barry.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Niko, tell us a little bit about the 14-bit resolution channel on the Amiga.
Ooh, yes, for sure. Well, the 14-bit resolution channel was possible if the two sound channels were merged together. So in total, about 8 virtual channels could be utilized using these methods. So depending on the model of Amiga you had, the power LED indicator did different things in reference to the analog output, which is connected through the low-pass filter. And the sound chip uses DMA, direct memory access, for the sound playback through the system's RAM.
Because software worked so well with the sound hardware, the Amiga was considered a trailblazer for sound and music in computer video games. And if you haven't been listening this whole episode, it's pretty clear that the Amiga rocks.
Seriously.
So let's get into our next track. And this is my pick. It's from a game called Walker. And no, it has nothing to do with the Texas Ranger.
Dang.
Yeah, I know. The Amiga release came out in 1993. And this song is called Title Screen, and it's by Raymond Usher.
Here's a special news bulletin.
Holy Toledo, do I have a great special going on for you. That's right, a special news bulletin. It's bass. Now you may say to yourself, Self, what's this man talking about? Well, I'll tell you. Introducing the all-new and improved mech called Bass. What's Bass stand for? Big, awesome, shootin' shooter. Have you ever wanted a mech that'll show off the true power of your lifestyle? Thought about taking over the world with a push of a button? Well, now you can, because in the year 2040, anything's possible. Bass is available at all mech shops for the low, low price of $4 billion. Chump change. Own the outcome of the Great War today or your money back. Guaranteed. I'm Susie Queasy, and I aim to pleasy.
The Bass is not sold over the counter. Get a doctor's prescription before using Global Annihilation button. No children under 79. Dads, get your mom's permission before grandma purchases the Bass. No guarantees after Global Annihilation. Not sold in Utah.
Just heard Bass. And also Bass. Walker. Walker was the name of the game. Amiga was the system. And 1993 was the year of release. That was the title screen by Raymond Usher. I had to pick this track.
Of course.
I've known about it forever. It's such a mic track, but I want to hear what you guys have to say about it.
It's absolutely a mic track. This is up there with Global Gladiators and Savage.
Savage.
But I mean, you knew that. You knew exactly what you were doing.
I did. I did.
I did like the music samples in the, or not the music. I'm sorry. I did like the audio samples in this. The music was good too. That's not what I meant to say, but like
Sure.
the audio samples were really neat. Just like the now hear this, lock on targets. I got Apocalypse Now opening vibes from this, like with like the machine guns and the helicopters and all that stuff. It just evoked like opening scenes from Apocalypse Now.
Niko?
Yeah, this has Mike all over it, and I love it. We've got the similar taste there. Love those samples. Long track too. Surprised I didn't pick the longest track on this episode.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like the Amiga tracks, but yeah, 7.5 minutes. Not bad.
Mhm.
Very good. Doesn't sound like it overstays. I think because like that
Delicious.
first beginning is filled up with all the samples. I love it, man. And that there's like good like synth line and bass in there. It's like just that da 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 da. I think it's with like the bass. Gives me. I could be ready to be a walker. Just start trudging out, just going, walking to this vibe. Just like
Right.
yeah. Like I got this. And bass and goody.
Yeah. Goody.
That
Goody,
is-
goody. Bass.
I love it. Definitely love
good.
those samples.
Yeah, phenomenal. It's no secret that I love this type of music. The heavy sampled, like PCM samples with voice effects. It's so corny and dumb. I love it. And I just love how over the top it is. But I'm going to be honest, I didn't know that it was in this track because this song, I never initially made it, not until a few years ago. I didn't make it past the beginning of the track. I always thought it was a really creepy track in the beginning because you've got that like really abrasive, now hear this, now, and it like creeped me out with combining with those synths. It's like the sound of something getting turned down. It definitely invoked this like very apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic vibe for me. Terminator, RoboCop, like that sort of stuff. Finding all of this Amiga music on my computer, putting it on my phone, and going through it. And I remember getting to the Walker track and being like, no, I'm going to sit through it. I'm going to listen to it all the way through. And I did. I finally did. And what my mind found was one of the greatest Amiga songs in history. I mean, goody bass. That's all I gotta say. It's so good. I love that bass line. It does get a little repetitive, but I think the sound effects really kind of keep me engaged in the song. So like, I want to keep listening to it.
Yeah, oddly enough, I agree. Like it's weird. Like I do enjoy the bass line that they have going throughout here, but it definitely, like if it was just the music, it would be repetitive, forgettable background music, nothing I really care about. But with all that extra stuff in there, like it's silly for sure, but it made it a more engaging song. So I totally agree with you.
So
that extra flair to make it memorable.
Absolutely. So Walker is a side-scrolling 2D like shooting game where you play as a mech called AG9, also known as Walker. You're basically just going through blowing up stuff. The animation's really cool on the Walker itself. Supposedly the Walker, like the head of the Walker, person on the team called Scott Johnston, used a small 3D program that he wrote so that way he could get it so that it looked like pixel perfect as far as the movement, and it looks really cool, like the actual animation and movement of it, this like blue mech that you're running around and shooting stuff. So it's cool. I don't know how it controls or plays other than that, but just like this music was great, so I wanted to include it.
Very cool.
Yeah. Raymond Usher has a ton of stuff that they've done, starting off with Walker in 93, but then continuing work with games like Lemmings Chronicles in 95, Judge Dredd in 97. They kept going with games like Body Harvest in 98, Wild Metal Country in 1999. But they mostly stuck with audio programming on the like later Grand Theft Auto games, like 2, 3, Vice City, etc. Their final game that they've been credited for so far is Halo the Master Chief Collection, where they were the senior audio engineer. So definitely kind of less composition and more behind-the-scenes programming.
Yep, because the game was developed by DMA Design, also known as Rockstar North. So,
Yep.
Crazy. Rockstar starting in like early home computer territory. How silly.
Silly and wacky, just like Goody Goody Bass.
Yeah, which apparently the speech was done by Neil Glancy.
Right.
Like the Moby Game credit section. So, there you go, Neil. You did good.
Yes.
I don't know if he's responsible for the Goody Goody Bass, but
I hope
whoever is, you did great. We love it.
So it looks like we're getting another call tonight on our XVGM request hotline. Let's go ahead and kick this one over. Janine, want to send that on over to us?
XVGM Radio, you are on the air. What game soundtrack song do you want to hear?
Yo, man, you ever heard of a game called Jim Power? I think you should play some from that dude. I think it'll be very radical and tubular, man.
Yeah, Jim Power's got a great soundtrack. So what song do you want to hear, random stranger?
I'm Jim Power. I'm no random stranger. I am the Jim Power.
Wait, you are the Jim Power?
The one and only.
Yeah, dude. I'm the Jim Power. And I ain't talking about the Super Nintendo Jim Power. We're talking about the original, of course. This is Amiga time with Jim Power in Mutant Planet. You heard of it?
I have, yeah. It's got a great soundtrack. But I hope you want to pick a really good track from this. It's like maybe like level 1 or the title screen music.
Nah, bruh. I know what I'm going for. It's level 5, the caves, man. So, hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. You're the best. I'm the best. Jim Power forever.
I can agree with that. Thank you. What a considerable guest. Very nice, very warm.
Jim Power's a pretty cool guy. I don't know that I've played a whole lot of his games, but he seems really neat. I like him.
He does. He seems like he's in power. He should be in a game called Jim Power in Power.
Empowered Jim Power in Power.
Yes, yes. All right, so let's hear Level 5 Caves from the 1993 Jim Power and Mutant Planet soundtrack on the Amiga by Chris Holzbeck.
Welcome back to XVGM. That was level 5, The Caves, from Jim Power in Mutant Planet on the Amiga, of course, from 1993 by the one and only Chris Hulsbeck.
Yes. So good.
Yeah?
I like how this track ramps up, whereas initially it's got a mysterious cave feeling going on. You know, once you get past that kind of like plotting kind of bass that's more like synth based than like groove based, you get these very like stretched out synth melodies. And it really does sound like you're going through a cave, but then the track picks up and you get that like kind of head bobby do 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 do. It's very just fun to listen to, but then when it kicks into high gear, you just don't see it coming from anywhere. So it's like the it's just really energetic and fun to listen to, and it gets me super pumped up to play this game, and the entire soundtrack kind of does that for me. So great soundtrack, great game.
Yeah, I like the fact that this one, like, it's called Caves, and I definitely get a cave vibe out of it. Like what you were saying, Mike, with the synths that get kind of drawn out, they kind of evoke like an almost an empty, hollow feel. And like as the track kind of goes on, like I feel like it definitely fits the theme of like a cave level, which is really cool, because I mean I feel like that's not something that's easy to particularly evoke. And I mean, maybe it's just because I know it's the cave level, but I felt like it did a really good job of conveying that. So that was really cool. I felt like it was a lot more subdued than some of the other Jim Power tracks that I've heard. But I think any of the Jim Power tracks that I've heard have been from the SNES game, either played by like Mike or Eric or whatnot. And they feel a bit more energetic, but I really liked where this one was coming from.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's Jim Power in Mutant Planet. This is the original that, of course, the Super Nintendo version, the Lost Dimension, was based on. You know, it's just a consoleized version.
Right.
That was the first version, of course, I heard, was the Super Nintendo one. That's how I got into Jim Power and why I love it so much. And I would say every aspect of the Super Nintendo version is better. This one, which is also on par with the Super Nintendo version, because in the Super Nintendo version, this track actually plays twice. You hear it first in the second level, the Guardian's Castle, which is the top-down Contra 3S level. And then you hear it at the end in this cave level, which is called the Final Way, which I don't actually make the cave connection because, of course, I played the Super Nintendo version more. I know it by the Final Way. I mean, it still has that cave look. It looks like the hellscape, as that game would be to some people because of how hard it is, you know?
It is a really difficult game.
Yes, looking at the Amiga version, it still looks tough, but, you know, memorization and patterns, they're a little slower, but the Super Nintendo version, of course, ramps it up to a whole new level. That is like it's a whole other category of difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it also doesn't have that 3D...
parallax scrolling?
Parallax scrolling.
No new optics 3D, no 3D glasses.
Right.
And that for the original Amiga version, which, for those that know, I am the world record holder of the Super Nintendo version for Jim Power, The Lost Dimension. Yes. So I have heard the soundtrack very much for the Super Nintendo version, and even though I love the Super Nintendo version of this track, I think this one on the Amiga for the final level basically it's better, and I love it too. It's got that pump. It gets me pumped. Like, I mean, this is the last track I hear in my speed run, and I've heard it so much. I get so excited to just beat the game, you know? It's just like, I'm ready to beat this game. Like, let's go. It's pumping. The bass is so good. The synths bring that epic vibe, and the drum just keeping the beat. It's all, and for, 93, primetime Amiga sound, for things to be sounding as great as they can, it all comes together so nicely. I love this game. I love the music. I love Chris Hulsbeck. Wonderful man.
Absolutely. I mean, just phenomenal compositions here on Jim Power. So, Jim Power is the story of Jim Power.
Yes, the one we got called in for.
Yep.
From.
Right. I don't know. I don't really understand the story. You're playing as Jim Power, and you're in Mutant Planet.
Yeah, save a girl from the dimension of evil from Vapric.
Right. And that's it.
Guy.
Yeah. Save girl from bad guy dressed as a 90s, late 80s super dude.
Yeah, it's radical.
He definitely looks like he's the type of person that walks around with a Walkman on with the Walker title screen music just playing constantly.
Walker on Walker, huh? Nice.
Bass. Goody. Anyways,
very cool.
Let's move into Justin's last pick.
Yeah, so my last pick here is going to be from a game called Thunder Jaws. This came out in the arcade, on the Amiga, the Amstrad CPC, and the Atari ST, and the Commodore 64, all in 1991. And this is going to be Stage 4. It was composed by Julian Myers. All right, welcome back. That was Stage 4 from Thunder Jaws, came out on the Amiga in 1991, along with a bunch of other systems that aren't really important right now. It was composed by Julian Myers, and I really enjoyed this one for a number of different reasons. How about you guys?
I'm going to let our guest go first, because I'm still trying to tuck my innards back into my body, because it exploded.
Yeah, it's a good track. I just enjoy like that. Is it synthy? Like that.
Yeah.
I like that through the song. And just there's a good bass line here. It's just, I was gonna say it's going all over the place, but it's not really. But it's definitely, it's got a vibe. It's got a groove. I enjoy it. You know, for some early-ish. I guess 91 isn't really early Amiga. I keep thinking that like, because early is technically like 80s, anything in the 80s era. It's.
You like synth pop? Do you mean it's like a synth pop type track?
It got a little, just a little bit.
Yeah, it did have a little bit of a synth pop vibe. I love synth pop, for the record. It is so amazing. But like, oh man, where do I start with this track, Justin? Like, you nailed it. Goodness. I mean, you guys know, anytime there's a melody like this melody in this track, that super noodly. I loved it. And then that bass, the digga-digga-doo-doo, like straight out of a synth pop track from like, you know, Depeche Mode or, you know, like You freaking nailed it, Justin. Good job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I saved the best for last. I really enjoyed this one as well. I mean, obviously, I chose to play it, and I don't think I frequently choose tracks that I don't like. But yeah, no, agreed. Like I picked it for a lot of the same reasons that you enjoy it, Mike. Like I don't know that I would say I'm a huge fan of synth pop and synthwave, but more recently, in the last like year or so, I have been listening to a lot more of it and have been getting into particularly synthwave as opposed to synth pop. And the difference just being like synth pop was created in the time that it came out, the 80s and 90s. Synthwave is kind of the modernization almost, so it's produced, there's more production value behind it. So like you've got people like Carpenter Brute and Laserhawk and all of these synthwave artists that are just doing like synth pop but with today's technology, and I love that a lot. But this one just, I mean, I don't know what I can say that you guys haven't already said about it. It's fun. It's got a really cool melody. I get lost in that bass groove, and it's just such a neat track from such a weird game. So Thunderjaws is a run and gun, and it was developed and published by Atari Games originally. The Amiga version was likely done by Domark. They did a lot of the ports of this to the different systems. But the plot of this game is very, very simple. You're a secret agent on a top secret mission to stop the deranged Madame Q, who has kidnapped thousands of beautiful ladies to use in mutation experiments. So,
of course.
Yeah, just wanna mutate those beautiful ladies.
Why not? Why wouldn't you want to mutate a beautiful lady? What would you mutate her to, though?
So there's thousands of them. She's clearly building an army. My best guess is she's mutating them into large samurai frogs.
Okay.
A large apple to freshly squeeze. I got nothing.
Good call.
I have no idea. It could be anything for this type of game. So I went with the meme.
I'm gonna go with
a shark.
Goody goody.
She's gonna mutate them into goody goody?
Yeah, goody goody.
Goody goody.
Face.
Ah, I see.
No, I'm gonna guess a shark because of the name of because of Jaws.
That's a good guess. The shark is actually the submarine that you're on. So this game is very aquatic based. There are underwater laboratory platforming run and gun levels, and then there's just like underwater, like kind of like shoot 'em up levels where you are piloting this. I can't tell if you're piloting the Thunderjaws shark submarine, or it looks like it switches back and forth at times between like the submarine and then like you're a diver or the secret agent that's swimming through the ocean trying to get to the laboratories. Each stage has two different types of sections. So the first part is the underwater zone where you dive and swim through the levels to find the entrance to the lab. And then the second half is just not underwater. You're actually in the lab running and gunning, as the genre likes to call itself, and jumping across platforms. There's actually a lot of comparisons I've seen for this to Rolling Thunder. So
okay.
I'm not sure how close they are, but both I think Moby Games and Wikipedia make mention of the similarities to Rolling Thunder. But you are armed with a spear gun to kill the enemies. But you can get different weapons that each have limited ammo. So like your spear gun is unlimited, and your other weapons have so many times you can shoot them. And the different enemies that you've got, like regular divers, robots, and mutants. Kidnapped women that have been turned into mutants. So I guess she's mutated them, and now you're just killing them. I guess there's no way to turn them back or something.
Okay.
I haven't played it, so I couldn't tell you for sure. I'm just spitballing here. But every level ends with a boss fight, and classic boss fight run and gun games. Each boss has a weak point, so you want to shoot the weak point for massive damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds wacky.
Yeah, no,
I love it.
It's fairly wacky, and I highly encourage our listeners to go and look up images and screenshots.
Yeah. It's something. It's like straight out of the 80s, like romance novels. It looks ridiculous with Fabio looking dudes with creepy faces and muscles in their eyebrows, and then like women who look like they're 50 but they're like 22. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
Nico's all about it.
No, I'm just saying because of the 80s vibe just that has. Like, yeah. It's all ridiculous and awesome.
Exactly.
Over the top. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Julian Myers, he has done a lot of different stuff throughout the years. He's got just about as many art credits as he does audio credits. But as far as the audio credits go, it looks like he started out in 1990 doing music for The Hunt for the Red October, and then went on to do things such as RBI Baseball 2 in 1991, Final Fight in 1991, likely did the Amiga port for that, music score for Marco in 1994, it looks like a Genesis game. Most recently, their last credit was Galaga Destination Earth in 2000. They did the music on that one, and that's listed for PlayStation and Windows.
Cool. It is time to play our final track of the episode and send Nico back into the void which he lives. We're going to listen to a classic. This is Pinball Dreams. Came out on the Amiga in 1992. This track is called, I'm going to say Ekran Tighter, and it's by Olaf Gustafsson. That was the last track of the XVGM Radio Amiga Spotlight with NikoTengoku. That was Pinball Dreams on the Amiga, came out in 1992. And that track, how is it pronounced, Justin? Ekran
Titre, yeah. It's French, apparently.
It's French for title screen, basically. And it's by Olaf Gustafsson.
I have to say, this feels like you cheated a little bit, Mike. This feels like it was 3 songs. Like that, like the song played and then stopped, and then another song started. Like you just like crammed 3 extra songs into the end of this.
I swear to you, this is the title screen music.
Oh, I believe you. I'm not saying that you actually cheated. I'm just saying it feels like it because I heard 3 distinct songs in this.
I know. It's just such a bonkers song. I love this track. The bass line is so funky, so groovy, and so hard-hitting. Oh my goodness, it's phenomenal. And then the guitar part, especially more towards the end, with that really shreddy, that really awesome. I just love this track from head to toe. It is a phenomenal track and one of my favorites on the Amiga, period.
Nice.
I have not heard the Super NES version, though.
It's probably
not as good, sadly.
Probably not. But what about you, Niko? What do you think of this one?
I love it. It's everything that I definitely love in an Amiga song, especially the 3 songs in one. It's just the styles. It just switches up so much, man. It's like starts off all free and just kind of magical in the beginning, and then you get a little more rockin' towards the middle, and then the end just sounds like metal. I'm like, what the heck is happening? I thought this was a pinball game.
Yeah.
The music for that. But, it's Amiga, baby. Just Olaf, with whatever he wanted to do, he was like, I'm doing it right here. And he did. And it just sounds great. I love the synths. I love the bass. Of course, it's like Amiga is associated with bass now. But you mix all of that in with your guitars and your synths and your drums. Oh, and just whatever style you want to do. In this case, 3. He executes it very well. And I'm glad. Turned out as good as it did. It's kind of maybe not prog rock, but just all the change-ups reminds me of that. Just kind of goes all over.
A lot of kind of crazy time signatures going on there. I don't know the specifics of them because I've always just kind of grooved out to this track, so I've never really sat down and tried to figure it out. But for the most part, I think it stays 4/4 timing and then kind of goes balls to the wall bonkers. So Pinball Dreams, there's really not much to say about it. It's a pinball simulation, like a video pinball, developed by a company called Digital Illusions. There's 4 tables that each have a sort of theme. There's Ignition, which is rocket launch type stuff like space. Beatbox, which is themed around the music industry, bands and stuff. Steel Wheel, which is themed around old Western type stuff and steam trains and stuff. And then Nightmare, which is themed around a more haunted graveyard type setting with ghouls and ghosts and whatnot.
That's pretty cool. I haven't played a pinball video game in a while, but the ones that I have played, I've actually really enjoyed. There's that one that used to be part of, what was it, Windows XP? I can't remember what the name of it was, but, I remember playing a lot of that. I used to have, on the PS1, a game called, I think it was Time Shock Pinball. The company that made a bunch of different pinball games for the PS1, but that's the one that I had, and I played a lot of it. It was silly, it was simple, it was pinball, but it was fun.
Yeah. The composer on this, Olaf Gustafsson, started off with Pinball Fantasies in 1992, and then also worked on Pinball Dreams that same year. So I'm not sure. Pinball Fantasies is listed first, but it might be a swap thing where Dreams came out first. Because from what I understood, Pinball Fantasies was the sequel, but who knows. True Pinball in 1996, continuing with the pinball games before they moved over to Swedish Touring Car Championship in 1999. They kept working on stuff like the Battlefield 1942 in 2002. Just continued working on Battlefield games with Battlefield 2 Modern Combat in 2005. Kind of took a break here and there, but their latest game was actually this year. It was a game called Ultra Core. They did the music and sound effects for it. It's like a run and gun. Pretty sure they grabbed him just because he's such a good composer that they were like, we got to get this guy back and get him, in the compositions. Because, before that, his last game was Guns Up in 2015.
Guns Up, huh? What an interesting composer. He clearly has chops and can clearly do different styles, so Nice. Good on him.
Absolutely. So now comes the time of the episode where we have to pick our favorite track, which is going to be very, very difficult. We're going to let our guest, Niko, go first. What was your favorite track of the night?
What? God, let me go first. How dare you be so kind?
How dare I?
It's always tough because obviously when you pick your own stuff, you're like, well, because it's the stuff I love and it's really good. But obviously besides my own, which I love all of them. God, I mean, I would probably have said Super Stardust, but actually that Pinball Dreams did just remind me that, like, oh yeah, this is a great one. Because I do know it as being one of the top Amiga songs as well for that title theme.
For sure.
So I would probably give it to that one, just so I'm not picking my own. I'll give it to Pinball Dreams, just because it's so, like, did all kinds of stuff and I loved it.
Epic.
Nice. I think I would probably go with top of the show. That Fury of the Furries track was just out of left field and really, really awesome. But I think it's followed up very closely by the Super Stardust track. It's just
not Walker. Come on, Justin.
No, the Super Stardust is just like right up my alley. It's the type of music that I often enjoy. It's very like techno and trance and whatnot. And then, like I said, the remake of the game kind of kept that feel while doing a slightly more modern version of the music. So I didn't know what to expect, and then I loved it. So both of those were awesome picks from Niko.
Absolutely. You know, I was going to pick the Fury of the Furries. I really was, but man, that Thunder Jaws track came out of left field for me. I'd never heard that before, and you bringing that, man, you brought the fire for sure. Like, that is my pick of the year so far. It's only January 2021 when this comes out, but that's my pick of the year so far.
Very
good
cool
stuff.
Yeah.
And then of my own picks, Walker's so goofy. I would give it to Walker for my own pick. But yeah, Thunder Jaws is my pick.
Nice.
So we want to hear from you. What are your picks of this show? What do you think of this show? Let us know on our various social medias. Niko, thanks so much for joining us on this wonderful, fantastic episode where we got to listen to some awesome tunes and goof around. It's always a pleasure having you.
Yes, thank you for having me on again. Thank you both. I appreciate you just wanting to have me.
We always want to have you, Niko. Come on. What do you got going on in Niko's world?
Well, streaming as always on twitch.tv/NikoTengoku. I'm there at least twice, 3 times a week. I try to be. Sometimes it's tough keeping that. But other than that, the usual, I've been off of my YouTube activity for a bit with 8-Bit Stereo, but it will be coming. It's coming back. There's going to be more uploads happening for soundtracks I've yet to do and redoing all my old ones, perfecting the sound that I want out of 8-Bit Stereo. Finally, after 8 years, here we go.
Awesome. Yeah, you and I have been at it on YouTube for pretty much close to the same amount of time, so we're in it for the long haul, my friend.
Yeah, we've been around. We know, just doing our projects and just enjoying what we can out of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons, without whom this show's continued improvement would be impossible. They are Alex Messenger, Cam Worma, Chris Hart, Dan Lawton, Jordan and Anson Davis, Kung Fu Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast, Scott McElhone, Chris Myers, Peter Panda, The Autistic Gamer 89, Bedroth, Brad Austin, Chris Murray, Jeremy Rutz, Llama Adam, Marcus Stewart, Matt Hanola, Muddle Madness, Nick Davis, and Ryan McPherson.
If you would like to become a patron, you can sign up at patreon.com/XVGM Radio. There you can see the different tiers as well. Just $1 gets you a thank you at the end of the show and access to our monthly live shows.
You can visit our website, xvgmradio.com, where you can listen to all the episodes and learn more about your hosts, as well as any of our guests or composers that we've had on the show.
If you'd like to reach out to us, you can always email us at xvgmradio@gmail.com.
If you've liked what you've heard, please consider giving us a review on iTunes.
You can join our Facebook group and chat with other VGM lovers at facebook.com/groups/xvgmradio, where we talk about everything from current game news to sharing awesome VGM tracks or just talking about the podcast itself.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle on both of those sites is @XVGMRadio.
If you don't have any other social media or just want to try something unique, check us out on our Discord group chat. Links will be in the show notes.
Justin, in 2 weeks, we're returning Niko-less, unfortunately. But we will be talking about some cool stuff. What are we talking about in 2 weeks?
So we're going to do something similar to something we did a while ago, except a little bit more specific. So we have done No Nostalgia Classics, I think it was.
Yeah, it's like episode like 21 or 19 or something.
Yeah, because I remember like I had Ocarina of Time in there, and you wanted to kill me, and you had Secret of Mana in there, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're changing the spotlight on the No Nostalgia here to fighting games. So we're gonna listen to music and talk about fighting games that we just either never got into or never heard of before or whatever. And I gotta say, I was taking a look at it the other day, and there's already some really good stuff in there. Don't recognize the games at all, but the music is awesome. So
yeah, gonna be a treat. So in 2 weeks, get your fighting gloves on, get your Hadoukens ready, and your lightning strikes and whatever Raiden says in Mortal Kombat.
Your toasties.
Sure. All right. So this is Mike
and Justin
signing off for XVGM Radio.
And what is probably the Amiga's one of their biggest claim to flame. Damn it.
Claim to flame.
Claim to flame. That's why I don't do scripts. That's why I gave up on reviews.
It is very clearly a Space Marine, like a Warhammer 40k yes, Space Marine.
Sporks Marine?
Sporks Marine. Spork Marine is what I was trying to say. They stab you with sporks until you die.
Yeah. Random stranger.
I'm Jim Power. I'm no random stranger. I am the Jim Power.
Wait, you are the Jim Power?
The one and only.
The one and only.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we can fix this all in post.
Yeah.
Because I'm starting to sound like fucking Macho Man. Hold on. All right, I got this.